We shouldn't have did that. We shouldn't have traveled all the way to Jacksonville to Tampa to go kill Julio Foolio.
He puts out his arms like this, and it appears that he's brandishing a rifle.
Welcome back to Fame Flux, where the truth behind fame gets exposed. In a stunning twist, the man accused of shooting Jacksonville rapper Foolio stood before the court and issued a public apology. Eyewitnesses say the courtroom fell silent as he admitted regret for the violent incident, claiming it was never supposed to go that far. The apology came during a tense hearing, with Foolio's family and supporters watching closely. While some viewed the statement as genuine, others saw it as a strategic move for leniency. Details from the case paint a complex picture.
He puts out his arms like this, and it appears that he's brandishing a rifle with one hand extended and one, what I would consider the trigger finger. He starts walking around the interview room after he gets out of his seat, and this is after Detective Nieder and I had left, and he's holding it like this in front of him, and then he starts going, "Boom, boom, 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 boom." And then he walks around, and then he does it again. And he does it multiple times.
One thing is clear. This unexpected courtroom moment has everyone questioning what really led to the deadly confrontation. And when those arrests finally began unfolding, it was like watching dominoes topple one after another. On July 27th...
What do you know about Julio Foolio? Let's start from there. I think he's a piece of I watched all those videos. I went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, we all did.
I mean, that Joker's desecrating graves. He is asking to be killed. There is no doubt about it.
It was inevitable.
I can't believe it took this many years for somebody to kill him. Honest to God.
2024, Isaiah Chant, 21, Alicia Andrews, 21, and Sean Gathright, 18, were arrested in Jacksonville. But the story did not end there. Rashad Murphy, 30, was taken into custody after a tense standoff on July 29, 2024, and the final suspect, Davian Murphy, 27, wasn't arrested until January 6, 2025, after months on the run.
You mean to tell me that he couldn't even go clean his car?
So the rounds that he allegedly used to shoot Julio Foolio 2 years before were still in his car.
Man,
so in 2 years, I guess he's never cleaned out the car because the rounds were still in the car.
Now here's where the case took an unbelievable turn. Once these suspects were brought in for questioning, they began acting in ways that even veteran detectives struggled to process. The most shocking moment came during the interrogation of Davian Murphy. Surveillance captured him standing up in the room and physically demonstrating how the shooting occurred, complete with sound effects and exaggerated movements. The detectives had stepped out, but the cameras kept recording, capturing one of the most self-incriminating displays imaginable. The footage quickly became known on the streets as one of the boldest and most damaging pieces of evidence in recent memory. But the trouble for the suspects didn't stop there. During the interrogation of Isaiah Chant, investigators made their stance on Julio unmistakably clear, highlighting just how deeply this gang rivalry had escalated and how law enforcement was fully aware of the dangerous, high-stakes conflicts surrounding his final days. The detectives weren't justifying the murder, but they were acknowledging the harsh realities of street life that Julio had ultimately embraced. The evidence stacked against the suspects was overwhelming. Investigators relied on footage from the scene, license plate reader data, and phone logs to identify two vehicles and trace them directly back to the suspects. But here's the most shocking discovery. When officers searched Sean Gathright's vehicle, they uncovered ammunition that matched the rounds used when Julio was shot 2 years earlier. This meant he had been carrying physical evidence of a prior attempt on Julio's life for over 2 years without ever disposing of it.
For all the victims, including the mother of Charles Jones, who traveled from Jacksonville this morning to be present for this announcement. Today, I stand before Tampa Police Major Pat Messmer, Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters, and Hillsborough State Attorney Susie Lopez to announce the arrest of 3 people in the deadly shooting of Charles Jones, also known by his stage name of Julio Foolio. In addition, we have warrants and are actively searching for 2 other individuals in this case.
The recklessness on display was astonishing, showing a complete disregard for even basic caution. When the arrests were officially announced, it marked a major breakthrough for both Tampa and Jacksonville law enforcement agencies. All 5 suspects were charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder, facing possible life sentences or even the death penalty. The investigation revealed the suspects' coordination was extensive, proving this was no spur-of-the-moment attack, but a methodically planned and executed killing meant to settle an ongoing score. The roles each suspect played became clearer as the investigation unfolded. Isaiah Chance and Alicia Andrews were identified as lookouts, tracking Julio's movements across multiple Tampa locations, including Teaser's Gentlemen's Club and Truth 18 nightclub. Meanwhile, Sean Gathright, Rashad Murphy, and Davian Murphy were alleged to be the actual shooters. However, the case took another shocking turn. Court documents revealed deeper connections than initially suspected. Evidence showed that Jado Breezy, a rapper affiliated with the 1200 gang, allegedly sent a $390 Cash App payment to Isaiah Chance on June 22, 2024. This payment was reportedly used to book an Airbnb, potentially helping facilitate the murder plot. While Jado Breezy has not been charged, the transaction raised serious questions. The suspect's gang affiliations highlighted the street politics driving this conflict. Rashad Murphy was documented as a member of the ATK gang, while Isaiah Chance was linked to 1200. These were not random acts of violence. This was the work of soldiers in a long-running street war. Although some surveillance footage was damaged, the actual moment of the murder was still captured. Prosecutors presented the chilling hotel video in court, delivering a devastating blow to the defense's case and leaving a lasting impact on everyone present. The bond hearings for these suspects were intense and closely watched proceedings. No bond was granted for any of them, with judges emphasizing the severity of the charges and the potential danger these individuals pose to the community. When Davian Murphy appeared for his bond hearing in January 2025, the denial was immediate and decisive. Perhaps the most notable moment came when details about the suspects' personal lives began to surface. Alicia Andrews revealed she was pregnant, a development that significantly altered the dynamics of her case. Pregnancy while facing serious charges in a county jail setting creates a different set of legal pressures and potential incentives for cooperation. The investigation further exposed the depth of the planning involved. The conspiracy to murder Jones stretched from June 21st to June 23rd, 2024, with suspects traveling from Jacksonville to Tampa on June 22nd in 2 separate vehicles. This was not a spontaneous act. It was a calculated, military-style operation involving multiple coordinated elements. Social media also played a pivotal role in the case. Julio posted his location several times that night, unintentionally providing his killers with a digital roadmap. The digital age has made it easier than ever for predators to track their targets, amplifying the risks in volatile situations. The impact on the community was significant. Sheriff T.K. Waters delivered a firm message that Florida would not tolerate such organized, violent acts that disrupt public safety and peace. The prosecution was equally determined to send a powerful message. State Attorney Susie Lopez made it clear that every individual involved in the crime would face the full weight of the law. As the cases progressed, it became increasingly evident that the prosecution had assembled a devastating case against all 5 suspects. The evidence was overwhelming, the planning meticulous, and the execution of the crime was documented on multiple surveillance cameras. These defendants had made choices that would shadow them for the remainder of their lives. To understand how they arrived here, it is necessary to revisit the night everything changed. Jacksonville had been entrenched in a deadly gang war for over a decade, and at the heart of it was Charles Andrew Jones II, known publicly as Foolio. He was not just a rising rapper, he was deeply embedded in the street conflicts. Foolio represented the 6 Block gang, part of the KTA network, which stands for Kill Them All, a name that carried literal implications. His life had been steeped in violence from the start. His father, Charles Andrew Jones, was murdered in a 2011 shooting in Jacksonville, fueling a cycle of retribution that would ultimately lead to his own demise. Growing up in the Moncrief neighborhood, Julio's music was not simply about the streets, it came directly from them. Albums like Life of Me, Final Destination, and Resurrection served as raw chronicles of actual street feuds. The conflict escalated sharply in 2017 when his 18-year-old cousin, Zion Malik Brown, was shot and killed, intensifying the violent rivalries surrounding him. An event escalated the gang war to deadly proportions, pushing tensions past the point of return. This was not merely a rap rivalry for social media attention. It was genuine conflict between 6 Block and their rivals, ATK, Ace's Top Killers, and the 1200 set out east. Julio had already survived multiple assassination attempts before the night that claimed his life. In July 2020, he was shot and wounded in Houston, Texas, and in October 2023, he was struck in the foot while driving in Jacksonville. Despite these close calls, the young rapper did not retreat. He publicly claimed to have returned fire in self-defense during the Houston attack, staying consistent with the street code he followed. June 23, 2024 was meant to be a celebration. Julio was turning 26, spending his birthday in Tampa, Florida, prepared to party and enjoy the occasion. However, the streets had other plans. The incident unfolded in the early morning around 4:40 a.m., shortly after he and his entourage were asked to leave an Airbnb for exceeding occupancy limits. What happened next was reminiscent of a high-intensity action film, but this was no fictional scene. This was reality, with life-altering consequences. 3 armed assailants, one wielding a pistol, fitted with a high-capacity magazine that discharged over 30 rounds, and 2 others carrying rifles equipped with brass catchers, opened fire. The barrage was so severe it left 3 others injured, though they miraculously survived. What became clear in the aftermath was chilling. This was not a random drive-by or a spontaneous act of anger. It was a deliberate, highly organized strike aimed with precision. The Tampa Police Department released surveillance footage showing suspects shadowing Julio from location to location before the fatal shooting, proving this was a calculated and premeditated hit. These individuals were not acting impulsively. They tracked him with the precision of hunters closing in on their target. The driver of Julio's car, who miraculously survived, later gave a harrowing account of those final chaotic moments. That testimony carried an unmistakable weight. Being present, hearing a friend take their final breath while gunfire erupted from all directions, painted a picture of pure devastation. The emotion in the survivor's voice revealed the full reality of how lethal and targeted this ambush truly was. Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkaw confirmed the motive was rooted in retaliation from rival gang members, specifically ATK and 1200, as part of a relentless feud with 6 Block. This was not about music, online insults, or fleeting social media disputes. It was the continuation of a decade-long gang war that had already left dozens dead across Florida. The investigation that followed demonstrated an extraordinary level of coordination from law enforcement. Detectives relied on surveillance footage, license plate readers, cell tower data, and forensic evidence to reconstruct the events in painstaking detail. Court filings outlined a coordinated plan deeply entrenched in gang rivalries, supported by video surveillance, digital tracking, and recovered physical evidence, such as matching rifle casings, linking each suspect to the crime scene. What made the case even more striking was the sheer recklessness of the accused. They were not experienced criminals skilled at covering their tracks. Instead, they left behind a trail of evidence that investigators followed directly to them. These were young individuals who made mistake after mistake, leaving behind a trail of evidence that ultimately led straight back to them. One suspect was found with shell casings in his vehicle from a previous attempt on Julio's life 2 years earlier, an oversight that demonstrated just how careless and unrefined they were in their criminal activities. The community's reaction to the arrests and revelations was immediate and intense. Social media lit up with condolences, anger, and speculation. But what drew the most attention were claims suggesting Foolio might have staged his death, fueled by posthumous activity on his Instagram account. However, official records, including confirmation of his burial on June 26, 2024, at Edgewood Cemetery, put those conspiracy theories to rest once and for all. The loss sent shockwaves through the Jacksonville rap scene. As one commentator noted online, these suspects had effectively dismantled the city's drill movement with their actions. The music that once placed Jacksonville firmly on the national map was now eclipsed by the reality of lethal street violence that claimed one of its brightest and most influential voices. Law enforcement officials responded with an unshakable stance. Sheriff T.K. Waters and Tampa Police Chief Lee Burkaw reiterated a zero-tolerance policy toward gang-related violence, with Burkaw warning that Tampa was not the place to settle street disputes. Their joint message was unambiguous. Bringing gang warfare into their jurisdiction would be met with the full weight and resources of the law. The investigation was only in its early stages, but the streets were already buzzing. Word spread quickly that arrests were imminent, and when they finally came, the revelations would stun the public. The suspects believed they had executed the perfect hit, but they had no clue that every step they took had been monitored. Every movement was caught on surveillance, every conversation documented, and every mistake meticulously cataloged by investigators, building an unshakable case. This effort went beyond solving a single murder. It was about delivering a clear warning to every gang member in Florida that the era of resolving disputes with bullets was ending. The state prepared to pursue the ultimate punishment without hesitation. As events unfolded, it became clear the suspects were wholly unprepared for the consequences of their actions. The stage was set for one of the most gripping court battles in recent history, a collision between the unspoken codes of the street and the unforgiving weight of the legal system. But the most staggering twist was still ahead. As the pressure mounted and the possibility of the death penalty became real, cracks began to show. Some suspects started talking, revealing information that would not only detail Foolio's murder, but also expose an entrenched network of violence and retribution that had scarred Jacksonville streets for years. As this story reaches its conclusion, the ultimate fate of the 5 suspects remains uncertain. What is already undeniable is that their decision to take Foolio's life has destroyed their own futures, along with the lives of countless family members and friends now forced to endure the fallout. The streets may have their own code of justice, but when that code collides with the legal system never plays by street rules. The death penalty stands as the ultimate consequence, and for these young suspects, the looming possibility of execution has changed everything about how they approach their cases. Whether Andrews will ultimately testify against her co-defendants, whether any of the male suspects will break and reveal details about the broader conspiracy, and whether justice will truly be served for Foolio and his family, these questions will be answered in the months and years to come. One fact is certain. This case has sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community, serving as a grim reminder that glorifying street violence in music can spill into the real world with devastating consequences. The cycle of violence that claimed Foolio's life and led to the arrest of these suspects continues to plague communities nationwide. Until that cycle is broken, more young lives will be lost, more families will be shattered, and more promising futures will vanish under the false belief that violence provides solutions. The choice always remains: continue down a path of violence and face inevitable consequences, or choose another route that leads to stability, safety, and survival. For Foolio, that choice came far too late. For these suspects, the weight of their decisions is only beginning to unfold. And for everyone watching this tragedy unfold, the takeaway is clear. Ultimately, the streets always lose. If you found this breakdown insightful, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video. Tap the notification bell so you never miss our latest deep dives.